The newly revealed Pokemon trailer had so much new information that we had to split our analysis in two. While the first one focused on the map of the Alola region, this analysis will delve into the rest of the information presented. So let's break out the old analysis machine to see what kind of secrets and hidden details we can find about the legendary Pokemon, the new characters, and the other new features. Of course, be sure to watch our analysis of the Alola map as we'll be referring back to it throughout. So let's begin with the Sun and the Moon. The legendary Pokemon have finally been given official names and both match the trademark that was filed some time ago. The Sun legendary is called Solgaleo and, surprisingly, it's a Psychic and Steel type. One would think it would have a Fire type considering its relation to the Sun, but that's just not the case. But Solgaleo also has a brand new ability called Full Metal Body, which prevents its stats from being lowered by both enemy abilities and moves. Its signature attack is the Sunsteel Strike, which, going by the name, will likely be a Steel-type move. Interestingly, it's said to attack with the force of a meteor and disregards the target's ability. Pokemon's website actually provides more information on Solgaleo, stating that since ancient times it has been honored as an emissary of the sun. Interestingly, even though it's revered, it's still referred to as the beast that devours the sun, though this may be due to its ability to hold vast quantities of energy, shining with light when active. So that begs the question, will the evil team's plan in Pokémon Sun involve Solgaleo absorbing all of the energy of the sun to plunge the world in darkness? Or is that too insane even for Pokemon? In battle, we see that Solgaleo is fighting a Salamence in a canyon-like area. This is either taking place on the southwest island near where we saw Solgaleo for the first time, or on the southeast island in the Badlands. Based on the surroundings though, we think it's the southwest island. Solgaleo is fighting for the trainer as his only Pokemon, but the strange thing is that the scene changes perspective when Solgaleo uses the Sunsteel Strike. Now, Salamence is your Pokemon while Solgaleo is the opponent. It makes us curious. Is this actually a multiplayer battle? Will multiplayer fights feature different locations now rather than a digital arena? It would certainly make things more visually interesting, though this may just be a developer sleight of hand. Then we have Lunala, the legendary for Pokemon Moon, who has a strange typing as well. Rather than a partial dark type, it is a Psychic and Ghost type Pokemon with the new ability Shadow Shield. Shadow Shield ensures that the user will take less damage from an attack that lands when it has full health. Lunala's signature move is the Moongeist Beam, which is likely a Ghost-type attack based on its name. And like Solgaleo's Sunsteel Strike, it also disregards the target's ability when it's being used. The Pokemon website provides more information on Lunala, where we can see its parallels with Solgaleo. Lunala is honored as an emissary of the moon and is referred to as the beast that calls the moon. Lunala is constantly absorbing light by spreading its wings before converting the light into energy. The description makes it a little trickier to pin down what the evil team might want to do with Lunala. It's possible they may try to use Lunala to absorb all the light in the world and plunge it into darkness, similar to our idea for Solgaleo. But a more insane idea is the literal idea of its name. What if it calls the moon by bringing it down to Earth? We're not sure of this theory though, since it crosses over into Majora's Mask territory and is kinda suicidal for the evil team. Interestingly, the trailer never shows Lunala on the trainer's side. We do wonder if this is where the player will eventually try to capture both Solgaleo and Lunala, but it seems like an odd location to have such an important battle. We think the confrontation would take place in front of the pillars where they were introduced, so we think there's some developer trickery going on in order to conceal what that fight will be like while still showing off what the legendary Pokemon can do. The trailer then shifts focus to show some of the locations around Alola. The first features the female trainer walking near a cliff. We can actually point out the location of this spot on the in-game map of the starting island thanks to the large cave that can only be accessed with surf. But the big inclusion here is the tall grass where we can catch Pokemon. We mentioned in our first analysis how this Pokemon staple couldn't be seen at all. Well, there's no worries of it being gone now, as it can be found all over. We do wonder though if the palm tree could be headbutted in order to encounter different Pokemon. The scene then shifts to show the male trainer running past more grass next to a cliff at sunset. It's not exactly clear where he is based on the angle, but we wonder if he's on the path above this cave. A better question though is where this next area is. It features another behind the back perspective of the trainer with a wide open place to explore. There's tall grass to the left and multi-layered patches of ground spread throughout, Though we do wonder if it'll be possible to climb these, or if they'll merely act as a barrier that must be walked around. Based on all of this information, we believe this may be part of the indented path on the western end of the first island, but we can't say conclusively. Next, we see the female trainer running through a city at night with the new Pokemon Center lit up in the background. Based on the buildings surrounding her, we believe this is the western edge of the city that's based on Honolulu. The perspective keeps the large house on the left just out of view. This would be everything, except the Japanese website released several short clips that provided more context to the various aspects of Sun and Moon that were introduced in the trailer, including one that focused on more of the locations around Alola. While it shows the Honolulu-based city again, this time we see it at sunset, which does look quite beautiful. It then shows the nearby beach where we can see a girl in a sundress and a straw hat on the right, while a woman in a bikini runs toward the ocean. We wondered if she could be a swimmer trainer, but considering how she runs around, we suspect that she's just a normal NPC. But there's one more person in this shot. We can see the feet of someone who is relaxing on the chair on the left, just behind Slowpoke. The presence of Slowpoke is pretty big though in determining whether Alola will have Pokemon from across different generations or a focus on brand new ones. Now it is possible that Slowpoke was brought to Alola as part of its trainer's vacation, but because we've already seen Salamence and Gengar in battle, it seems to confirm that Alola will have a wide range of both old and new Pokemon. Moving on, we see the beach again when the female trainer runs down the ramp during the day. Strangely, there's no sign of the young girl in the straw hat, even though the swimmer is still hanging out near the Slowpoke. We also notice there's no one near them lounging in a chair. The only sunbather is much closer to the trainer, while the umbrella in the distance has no one under it. This all leads to the possibility that some NPCs will move to different locations depending on the time of day. The final scene from this clip shows the female trainer running amongst some rocks. On the bottom left, we can see the base of a sign and there is someone walking behind her. But despite scouring the map for a place that matches this location, we couldn't pinpoint it at all. It's just a little too nondescript. The trailer then shifts to the new characters you'll meet during your journey through Alola. But before we switch our focus, let's take a closer look at our trainer. One of the Japanese website clips focused on the trainers, and while not much was shown, we did get a few new details. For one, the scene of the female trainer in her room shows that her hat isn't actually shaped like a chicken's comb. Instead, it flattens and flares out at the top like a flower. The perspective before simply gave it the illusion that it looked like a chicken. In addition, we see a scene where the male trainer already has 3 Pokemon as he sends out his Rowlet. But the battleground is surrounded by tall grass, which makes it likely that this is a wild Pokemon battle. But it also confirms our theory that the battle circles that appeared beneath Pokemon in the 6th generation actually is gone. Before it seemed like it could just be a special moment like the first rival battle, but if this really is a wild Pokemon battle, then the circle should be there. And this applies to the scenes from earlier that featured Solgaleo and Lunala as well. Interestingly, this scene is mirrored with the female trainer using her Litten, but it's the only Pokemon on her team. We're not sure why that difference is there though. And then we have Kukui, who is confirmed to be the main professor of the Alola region. The Pokemon website states that he lives near the trainer's home and looks out for you. He's a researcher of Pokemon moves and will even take direct hits from Pokemon on occasion if he feels he can learn something from it. It's here in the trailer that he shows off the in-game version of Alola's map. While we've talked about the map extensively, it is interesting that this version has a lot of light blue water between the different islands. While the main game will likely ferry you by boat between them, the color of the water could indicate that the player could surf between the islands if they chose. But it's Kukui's words that have us intrigued. He states that Alola is chock full of nothing but rare Pokemon. Could he really be referring to the fact that there will only be new Pokemon during the main campaign? Somehow, we highly doubt it, considering the already noted presence of Salamence, Gengar, and Slowpoke. While his words are suspicious, we think he's mainly saying how there are so many new Pokemon to find around Alola. In Kukui's Japanese clip, we get our first good look at the house on the southeastern beach of the first island. For some reason, it's in very poor shape, though Kukui's profile may provide the answer to that. Since he likes to test Pokemon moves on himself, the opening scene may be of a Pokemon using an attack on Kukui. The damage to the house may be from the Pokemon using their moves, and waiting just outside we can see Lily's hat, who we'll meet very soon. The scene shifts to what we believe is your house, since we can see moving boxes in the background and groceries on the table. Kukui is once again introducing himself here, but when we see him again in a different house, we believe it's the one on the beach. There's a light shining into the house through a ceiling window, and the pattern on the floor is the same as the windows we saw on the exterior. Otherwise, the house has a kitchen on the left with a few stools nearby, a ladder perhaps leading to a second floor, and an aquarium in the background containing a love disc and a Corsola. These Pokemon continue to confirm that Alola will be filled with a wide variety of Pokemon from across the series. In the meantime, Kukui mainly seems to be encouraging you and Hao, who we'll cover soon, to encounter as many Pokemon as you can across the islands. The trailer then introduces us to Lily, who turns out to be the character with the big white hat that we saw hints of in the previous trailer. She's described as Kukui's mysterious assistant, and the Pokemon website goes even further, stating that she's the same age as your trainer. The description makes sure to note that she doesn't like making Pokemon fight in battles, preferring to read instead, which makes her being Kukui's assistant all the stranger since his focus is Pokemon moves. However, the website makes sure to note that she's assisting him due to personal reasons and will play an important role in the story. The question is, will she be a rival? She does have a bag which usually notes a trainer on a journey. Is it possible that she's the one that will receive the Pokemon who's strong against your starter? Or does she have some other role to play? After all, her dislike of making Pokemon battle is somewhat similar to N from Black and White. Could her story be a mirror of his? Her clip from the Japanese website makes that somewhat doubtful. As she turns around, it seems like you've startled her. She's very nervous and doesn't nearly have the confidence that N had. She seems to be standing near the bridge that leads across the waterfall east of where you receive your starter. But she seems to be somewhere else when the scene shifts. Here, she continues her shy demeanor as she says that it's nice to meet you before giving her name. However, she's not saying this to you. We can see the male trainer's hat just left of her, so she seems to be introducing herself to someone else. Based on how the dirt road becomes a paved one behind her and the paths leading both right and left, it seems likely that this is taking place in front of the blue-roofed building that we believe belongs to Hala. And because we believe that Hala and Hao are related, it's possible that Lily is introducing herself to one of them. A little later, we're in front of Kukui's shack with Lily and even see the Pokemon Center in the background. This matches up with the glimpse of her we saw before, which means this takes place shortly before seeing Kukui again. She's saying that she's immature as an assistant and wants to return something. What that might be though, we're not sure. Maybe her dislike of Pokemon battles means she wants to give up being a trainer? But we're just guessing, as it could be anything. In her final scene, we're in the area with the Tiki statues along with Kukui. Lily seems to be referring to herself before mentioning how a Pokemon seems hurt and a little weak, but she'll cheer it on nonetheless. What Pokemon is she referring to? Based on the look of our trainer's face, it doesn't look anything bad is happening, yet apparently there's a hurt Pokemon nearby. Is it part of Kukui's research where he observes Pokemon moves in battle? We're then properly introduced to Hao, who we were referring to as Hoku before. His name also refers to a kind of Hawaiian tree, specifically a kind of wood that's used to make canoes. This seems to push his possible family relationship with Hala even more, but the game has yet to provide conclusive evidence. However, we do know that this scene takes place in the starting village based on the nearby orange roof. And considering Hao's words, we believe this is just after the first Pokemon battle with his starter. The localization team really is taking inspiration from Hawaii though, as Hao's exclamation about chicken skin is a common phrase there. The Pokemon website describes Hao as a Pokemon-loving young boy with a big appetite and is the same age as your character. He's your first friend in Alola and he is obsessed with the treat malasada. Malasada originated in Portugal and was brought to Hawaii. It fills the same role as other donut-like pastries on Fat Tuesday, where it served as a way to use up all of the lard and sugar in a house before Lent began. It's likely that malasadas will serve as a food item for Pokemon in order to heal. The Japanese clip of Hao shows an extended scene of him introducing himself, though there's not really anything new here. That's where the next scene comes in. It appears to be just before their first battle as he talks about wanting to have fun. Considering that the story sequence is playing out at sunset, it confirms that the game will follow the 3DS's internal clock. But as the camera shifts, we can see an NPC watching in the background while another appears to be selling juices at a stand. Another stand is nearby filled with what appears to be souvenirs. However, we do get to see How's opening battle animation where he stretches in preparation for the battle. It's worth noting that his title is Pokemon Trainer, just like rivals in the past. There aren't any major revelations, but How's animations with his Pokeball really do highlight his confident and fun-loving personality. And while that's all of the characters the new trailer introduced, there are still a few more features that were revealed. While it wasn't in the trailer, the Pokemon website has revealed that Sun and Moon will have a QR scanner. Using it allows players to see information about Pokemon when they scan QR codes. The codes correspond to different Pokemon, which encourages scanning different ones to find new Pokemon. However, there are special QR code patterns that allow you to register Pokemon found in Alola to the Pokedex and reveal where they can be found. If you haven't caught that Pokemon yet, you can use this to find it and catch it. The key is that you can display QR codes for the Pokemon you have caught in the Pokedex. This allows you to share the code with friends so that they can register the Pokemon in their Pokedex to potentially find it. It's another step in allowing players to work together in the Pokemon series. But the Alola Pokedex still has one more surprise, namely that it was specifically designed for a Rotom to possess it. And amazingly, it's able to talk to you. That leads to the one big question. Would this allow players to talk to the Pokemon on their team? Could this expand how features like Pokemon work? Or does it lead toward brand new features with their own benefits? Unfortunately, the trailer doesn't say. The Pokemon website does provide more information though. The Rotom Pokédex is an extremely rare device that only a handful of trainers have. It's able to do more than just record Pokemon info though. It interacts with you with its own personality. It also works as a map, showing your current location and your next destination, as well as providing advice on where to go based on the conversations with NPCs that you've had. This seems to imply that exploration will be a much bigger focus in Sun and Moon, especially considering that the map allows you to place waypoints. We see this in action during the Rotom clip from the Japanese website. Here, Rotom states that the trainer school was set to the destination before we see the top and bottom screen of the 3DS in action. Rotom is on the bottom screen with a detailed overhead view of the map. We even see the icons for the trainer and his waypoint. It makes us incredibly curious whether Pokemon is opening up the map to allow for more exploration, or simply adding a waypoint feature so new players can navigate the world a little easier. Either way, we also get a look at the usual Pokedex screen, which has its own share of revelations. For one, the top screen shows the total completion percentage for the region, while the two boxes on the bottom screen displays that one Pokemon has been caught, while 3 have been seen. The top option is labeled as the Alola Pokedex, while the one below is the Melee Pokedex. Taking into account that there are 3 more open spaces, it seems that each island will have a dedicated section of the Pokedex, while the top option allows you to look through them all. And this even shows that the first island is officially called Melee in Japan, though we're not sure if that'll be changed in the English translation. The bottom option allows the player to get their Pokedex evaluated by the professor at any time. That's interesting in and of itself, since that's usually done through the PC. Could more features be done through the Pokedex like we stated before? Maybe this is the laptop we were thinking of. Finally, we get a look at the style of the Pokedex, and while there isn't much to evaluate other than its design, we do see that the 3 Pokemon seen are the starters, which could confirm that Lily really will act as a second rival. But there's one more piece of information that the Rotom Pokedex shows us, specifically the artwork released to show it off. In this image, the trainer is wearing a bracelet with a jewel inside, and it looks just like the jewels that can be found in the Japanese logo. What does this mean? Well, the prevailing theory is that this ties into a new feature that will be introduced in Sun and Moon, commonly called Synergy. It stems from the Pokemon X, Y, and Z anime, where Ash has gained the ability to fuse his and his Greninja's consciousness together temporarily in battle. This changes the appearance of Greninja slightly to match Ash, and increases its abilities so that it could even stand up to Mega Evolved Pokemon. The drawback is that any damage Greninja takes, Ash can feel as well, which leads to strain on his body. The reason this theory has taken hold is because the anime almost never introduces a concept like this that doesn't somehow tie back into the games. And with it being such a big part of the anime at the moment, many suspect that it will be integrated. We're not sure ourselves, as there are a lot of differences. For one, Ash doesn't need to use any special device to trigger this change, yet in the Sun and Moon artwork we see a jewel. Secondly, an incredibly strong bond is required to trigger this change. It was said that this was required of Mega Evolution 2 before it was released, but this never seemed to be fully integrated. It's possible that the new Rotom Pokédex could lead to a way to further connect with your Pokémon and trigger this synergy. Again, we can't say for sure if any of this will appear in Sun and Moon, but we do like the idea of being able to connect with any Pokémon in order to give them a temporary power boost as long as you've improved your bond. Okay, we're almost finished, but there are still a few theories that have appeared since the release of our map analysis. For one, many have pointed out that there are two cloud formations on the Alola map that greatly resemble Ho-Oh and Lugia from Gold and Silver, and looking at them, the resemblance is uncanny. But if they are meant to resemble those legendaries, why? What role could they play in Sun and Moon? Or is it simply meant to indicate that Alola is near the Kyoto region? That would explain why some villages in Alola closely match a traditional Japanese style. Moving on, Mayor Pig III on Twitter pointed out that the Slacking Motel matches up exactly with two other buildings in Alola. One is on the western edge of the first island, while the other is near the series of water basins on the northeastern island. He also noticed that the building next to what we believe is the contest hall on the northeastern island is exactly the same as what we call the lodge on the southern tip of the southeastern island. The question is, why? Do they fill some new role in Sun and Moon and are merely new, easily accessed locations? We can't say for sure. However, Mayor Pig does believe he can identify two of the buildings on the first island. He believes the house on the western edge is the new Pokemon daycare, while the building to the north of the island with the garden is a berry farm, both of which make a lot of sense to us and are good observations. Then there's Nathan Lawlin on Twitter who thinks he has identified what the tower on the southeastern island could be, a pagoda from the Kyoto Gardens of Honolulu Memorial Park. But that's from the wrong Hawaiian island. Where the structure sits is in the Hawaiian Paradise Park, but we couldn't find evidence of any pagodas there. So it may be possible that the developer simply moved the pagoda to that island for the purpose of Sun and Moon. What we found interesting though is that the park Nathan found is called the Kyoto Gardens. Kansai, Japan, which Kyoto is a part of, served as the inspiration for Johto. And who are we seeing hints of but the Johto legendaries? It could all be coincidence, but these are some fascinating connections. Finally, evidently Fishy on Tumblr noticed something interesting about the shoes of the male and female trainers. The male trainer has blue shoes and a pattern very similar to Team Aqua of Pokemon Sapphire, while the female trainer has red shoes and a pattern reminiscent of Team Magma from Pokemon Ruby. While it's not a solid connection, it's another potential reference to Pokemon's past. Perhaps the Alola region will be filled with callbacks to past Pokemon generations as a way to truly celebrate 20 years of the franchise. Whatever the case, there's no doubt that this latest batch of information on Pokemon Sun and Moon provided a ton of new details, but there's always more to discover. After all, we haven't seen any other new Pokemon yet, and we still need a better look at the rest of Alola. Perhaps these details will come during E3 at the Treehouse presentation of Sun and Moon, and you know we'll be there to cover it. Until then, let us know if we missed anything in the comments. If you haven't watched our previous analysis on the Alola region's map, be sure to check it out. We'll have a link in the description below. And if you liked this video, be sure to subscribe to keep up with everything we do. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to Game Explained for more on Pokemon and other things gaming.